This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
Seeing Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson running to the locker room with a turkey on his fist was not something I thought I would be seeing in the year 2025. But this is what happens when the Cowboys come out victorious on Thanksgiving.
I am stunned that you opened with that, of all things.
It's just an image that is burned into my mind since Thursday's win over the Chiefs, and I just can't get it out.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for joining us on a victorious Sunday again on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. That's Jonah Javad. I'm Andrew Cely. We've got a lot to get into, so let's just jump right in with what's on the show.
Here's What's on the Show, sponsored by NFM.
Defiled turkeys aside, what a difference a couple weeks make. At the bye week, Dallas faced an uphill battle to make the playoffs, and they just summited a pretty lofty peak in beating both Super Bowl teams last year. We'll break down what went right against the Chiefs on Thanksgiving, then take a look ahead to Detroit and analyze their playoff chances moving forward. Plus, we play a little this or that with an eye on college football, specifically Lane Kiffin and Texas football. That's what's on the show. Jonah, now who's on the show?
Hey, we got the good man, Saad Yousuf from The Athletic, joining us at the end of this holiday weekend. Saad, quick question. Are you a fan of the turkey eating that they do at the end of these Thanksgiving games?
I am, only because of the nostalgia factor, just the John Madden, the way that I grew up watching him hand out that award and everything. If I was looking at it purely from a do I personally like it, I might sway no, but just the nostalgia and reminding me of John Madden, I think that's why I love it.
Jonah, would you have gone to the extent that Jason Garrett did, where he kept the drumstick in his fridge for like decades on end?
That was a story that he probably should not have told on national television.
Probably not.
In case you were wondering, yes, Jason Garrett kept a turkey leg from an old Thanksgiving game and didn't realize he had it in his freezer until they were moving. Anyway, we should probably get to the Cowboys and that victory over the Chiefs. It's been a handful of days, but it was quite the win. Saad, we'll start with you. What impressed you most about that victory by Dallas?
To me, it has to be the defense. We know what the offense was capable of, but it was the defense that, you beat the Raiders. That really doesn't change my opinion at all. You beat the Eagles, and as someone that's watched almost every Eagles snap, they do find a way to pull out the drive when they need it. But overall, it's a lackluster offense. But we're talking about a Chiefs offense that, even though the Chiefs as a team have not been rolling up wins, even as we sit here today on Sunday night, the Chiefs right now in the NFL have the second best total offensive EPA behind only the Indianapolis Colts and just ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. But that is a legitimate offensive team that welcomed back Pacheco. They had Rashee Rice, they had Mahomes, they had Xavier Worthy, they had Kelsey, and you essentially held them down to about 14 points because I don't really give the defense the fault for the first one. So for me, it has to be the defense.
I'll piggyback on that just from the shock factor of that first couple minutes of the game and basically say the team's resilience overall. We've talked a lot about it over the last couple of weeks just in terms of what they're dealing with emotionally. But when you allow a defending AFC champion, multi-time Super Bowl champ to jump out 7-0 on an interception and a two-play drive, it very much felt like Schottenheimer and everyone were kind of shell-shocked on like, oh, this is a different level of how we do things. They established things, they let things settle down, they started trading, and to lead at halftime after that scenario, I thought really painted the picture, Jonah, of how that game unfolded down the second half.
Yeah, and to piggyback on the defensive point, we've given so much credit to Quinnen Williams for improving this Cowboys defense almost immediately. Also, it was combined with DeMarvion Overshown coming back. And some other players contributing, but one really sort of, I don't know if he's an unsung hero, but maybe underappreciated in all of this is Jadeveon Clowney. Came up with 2 sacks in the win over the Chiefs, and he's not a name that we go to first when it comes to this quote-unquote revamped Cowboys defense this season, but he's really turned it on. His grading scores are high, and he's been rock solid. For an NFL veteran that they brought in, kind of early, you're not quite sure what you're getting from him. As a free agent signing, he's been incredible. And really, we dog on Jerry in the front office for a lot of the things that they do in the offseason and a lot of the mistakes that they've made, which are mistakes, and we can call them that. But they've also gone out and done some really good things to improve their weaknesses and their deficiencies on the defense. I'm not quite used to giving Jerry credit, but I will give him credit when it comes to the moves that he's made over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think you look at some of the surprises they've had, especially on that defensive line. I think James Houston is a much better player than what you thought you were getting when you signed him. I'm right there with you on Clowney. That's a midseason signing that people forget it was a midseason signing. And then also Donovan Ezraku, like he was supposed to be someone that plays off of Micah Parsons, but he's played so well in his own respect. And I think those three guys just on the defensive line alone, to your point, Jonah, those are guys that are overachieving for what the Cowboys signed them to do.
We spoke a little bit about this after the Chiefs game. It is so hard for opposing quarterbacks against this Cowboys defense to deal with that interior pass rush when you've got Quinnen Williams and Osa and Kenny Clark driving that pocket back into the quarterback's lap. It is such a different feel than a defensive end kind of coming around the edge that a lot of mobile quarterbacks are able to manipulate and get out of. But that's what sort of makes this Cowboys defense unique. And another guy who, at the start of this year, Matt Eberflus was on the hot seat. We thought he might get fired after the first 5-6 games of the season, and now this defense looks totally revamped. They've flipped the switch. Was it the scheme or was it personnel? Saad, we'll start with you.
I think it was a little bit of both, because I think we had to give Eberflus a little bit of grace for the scheme part of it, because remember, he spent the entire summer, all of training camp, all of the offseason, thinking that he's going to have this one guy, number 11, on the defensive line that everything revolves around. So all of a sudden you have to redo everything schematically. But then secondly, yeah, it was a lot of the players as well. I mean, think about it. Overshown came back. We talked about Quinnen Williams. You talked about Clowney. To be honest, I don't know that this is even that much of a hot take, but I think Diggs' absence has been an asset for this defense to improve, as well as a few other pieces. You got Malik Hooker back. Donovan Wilson came back from injury. So you got a lot of really good pieces coming back. So I think it's been a little bit of both.
I'll jump on and say I think an underrated part of what Eberflus has done has been his adjustments. You talk about what happened in the Eagles game, down 21-0. All of a sudden, nothing happens after the first 3 drives. This game, seeing what the Chiefs did early, going through the second wave of them going down late, they found a way around those offenses through the middle sections of these games when they had an opportunity to turn sideways. And I even look back earlier on in the year when, again, the Eagles were basically moving up and down the field at will in that first game. And granted, there's a long difference between week 1 and what happened a week ago. But even at those points, you could sit there and say, he's figuring things out. It's up to the guys on the field to deliver. And at least past a certain point, until Quinnen Williams got here, until you had A-plus people up front kind of manning those trenches, you didn't have an opportunity for people to sit back and play coverage, or at least play aggressive coverage on these wide receivers, or they get open for a 60-yard pass. That's not happening anymore. And I think a lot of that is because of the guys up front. That's why I think a majority of the blame belonged to the personnel. And it's allowing Eberflus's strengths to come to the forefront, Jonah.
It's so much different to have Quinnen Williams as an anchor on the defensive line to kind of play the run, and then you've got DeMarvie and Overshown to come in and fill gaps.
Yeah.
It's such an opposite of what they had to start the season at both levels. So the run defense has obviously improved dramatically. And if they can stay healthy, this Cowboys defense, I think, is going to flip an entire switch. And it's like we've said on this show, probably – I felt like I was repeating it every week. If the Cowboys defense can just be average, this is a playoff team. Now, I'm not quite sure if they can get there because they're not getting much help in the playoff race. But when it comes to talent on the defensive side of the ball, they seem to be showing up. Real quick, before we go to break, Saad, your expectation from the defense against the Lions this week?
It's very high expectations. They don't have Sam Laporta. They might not have Amon-Ra St. Brown, as far as we know. This is an offense that is wounded for the Lions. They don't have Frank Ragnow, their center, who was supposed to come out of retirement. I expect the Cowboys defense to play to the level that they've established now in the last 2 games. And, the expectations are high. It's something very different from a few weeks ago. The
only thing different of these than the last 2 wins the Cowboys have had, this one, they've got to get on the road against Detroit. We'll see if their game can carry to Motor City. We're going to take a short break. Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. We'll be right back.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
The Dallas Stars are a wagon. 6 goals tonight in a dominant 6-1 win over the Senators. That's their 4th straight win. And Cooper Flagg continues to impress. He scored 35 points in a road win over the Clippers on Saturday. That's the most by any rookie in the NBA this year.
You know, it's funny looking at the Cowboys and their playoff chances kind of boil down to a tie earlier in the year when we all thought it would swing the wrong way. Well, guess what? Now they're kind of on the right side of a lot of these tiebreaker scenarios because they don't got to worry about them. Unless, obviously, Green Bay comes in and they end up with the same record, then it could get wonky. But the point being, it's a race to 11 wins, which is what the Cowboys have a max of at this point. And if there's a logjam at 11 wins, they're going to get the favor because of how the records shake out. The question will be, can they get to 11? And the first test, obviously, is Detroit. We thought, again, when the season started, 0-3 during this three-game stretch was on the table. They could go 3-0 and be the hottest team in the NFL entering the weakest part of their schedule, guys.
You think about it like, I think about it like March Madness.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get hot at the right time, and coming down the stretch is the right time. I do wonder if it's too late.
Right, that's the question.
You know, it is going to be a flurry to the finish. The Eagles seem to be, you know, within view. Saad, I'm curious, do you think that the Cowboys have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs? What has to happen in your mind?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, to what you said, Jonah, I think the division and the wild card are both very much on the table at this point because the Cowboys, more than anything, they have the third or fourth, I believe, easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. Once you get past Detroit, you have a Minnesota team that just got shut out today. And then you have the Chargers who are badly hurt on the offensive line, and then you go Washington, New York Giants. So I think, you know, they have a really good chance of actually ending the season on a winning 7 out of 8 or something like that. So for me, it's their schedule that provides the biggest advantage to them. And yeah, they'll need a little bit of help, but I don't think San Francisco is going undefeated. And I certainly don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are going undefeated with the way they're playing. So I think the playoffs are very much in the picture for me.
The question boils down to the double-digit wins nature of it because San Francisco, I believe, just got to 9 today with their win over Cleveland, and they've got, I think, the Titans next week, so they will get to 10. That means that the threshold for Dallas, they can only afford one loss on the San Francisco side of the ball. But that's also not counting basically like what happens in this Detroit game. Because this, by all accounts, is an elimination game to some degree. Detroit's obviously teetering, but they have the edge on Dallas right now, and they could create a bit of a cushion for themselves as their schedule kind of it gets easier with a game against Minnesota, I believe, still left on their schedule, and Chicago left on a division plate. So while the NFC North still has a lot to shake out, this game coming up here will basically determine which either Detroit or Dallas has the best opportunity to try and break into that last wild card spot.
Yeah, and it's a bummer that the Panthers pulled out the victory against the Rams. I mean, I did not see that coming. But then again, I don't know if I saw the Panthers beating the Cowboys earlier this year. Carolina's won some weird games this year against teams that they probably shouldn't have beat. And the Cowboys really could have used that help because the Panthers obviously not that tiebreakers really matter because of the Cowboys tie, but you would like to move ahead of Carolina in this race, and it's getting tougher. In order to get to where the Cowboys need to go, it's still going to come down to scoring points, and this offense is scoring them in bunches. Putting up 31 on the Chiefs against that defense and the disguises that they show, that was, I think, in my estimation, the most impressive part about that Thanksgiving victory. Saad, the offense specifically, can they be stopped? What is their Achilles heel?
Well, we saw them be limited against Denver, and I think the part of the reason why is because you have to just protect Dak. Dak is a pocket passer. He's not somebody that's going to be super mobile. As long as you can keep him clean, they basically can dictate the terms that they want to play on offensively. We saw it was very clear that CeeDee Lamb was coming off of an off game, and they wanted to get him involved. And guess what? They did. And when you cover him, George Pickens is there, Jake Ferguson, Javonte Williams. They get to dictate the terms that they want to play offense at, as long as the one thing is happening and Dak Prescott is staying clean. That's all that matters.
That, and at least where the offense is concerned, they don't have to score 40. I think that's what we were asking, is just get them a turnover, get them a chance to get on the right side of the turnover battle, and they'll put points on the board. You saw it in multiple times this year against pristine competition. When the defense put them in a position to succeed, they would take advantage. There is an opportunistic aspect to this offense that I think has gone under the radar most of the year. And again, they scored 31 against the Chiefs. A couple weeks ago, they would have needed to score 39 to get over that hump. The fact that their defense has lowered the bar that the offense needs to clear means you only need George Pickens to show up in the fourth quarter, not an entire game, for the game to be competitive, Jonah.
Yeah, and listen, 31 against the Chiefs is probably like 40 against most other teams. I mean, that they are a tough team to put up points against. In fact, I think 31 is tied for the most the Chiefs have given up in a game this year. So if you look at it, this Cowboys offense, top 5. Again, if the defense can just continue to improve and do what they've done, there's no reason why they can't win out or maybe lose one the rest of the way. It's in my opinion, it's going to shake out based on everybody else, but they can only control what they can control. And at this point, it is win as many games as you can and try to get into it, and hopefully you don't look back at the end of the season and thinking, oh, I wish we beat Carolina, in that one, or
Arizona.
Maybe we beat Green Bay, and it'd be a different story.
1 second on that game, by the way, which could make a huge difference coming down the stretch.
Woof.
Yeah. Stay with us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. We're talking college football, specifically Lane Kiffin and Texas football. Stay with us.
All right.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Time now for This or That. The concept is simple as always. I have a series of scenarios for our esteemed panel to examine. They have to choose this or that, one or the other, but you got to justify your choice. Let's start with scenario number 1. You're a high-profile college football head coach. We'll leave names out of it. You make college football playoff for the first time in your career and for the first time in program history. Do you A, leave that team for a conference rival with a higher national profile, or B, stay to coach the team in the playoffs and keep building a contender in a relatively under-the-radar program? Saad, lead us off here, this or that.
You absolutely have to stay. There's no question about it. In a business that is relationship driven in terms of the recruiting and all of the trust that you have to win over, it just is not a good look when you're leaving a already established school. Again, that's the important thing here. This is Ole Miss. This is not Eric Morris leaving UNT to go to Oklahoma State, or the Tulane coach leaving to go to Florida. This is not that. If you are in the playoff as an SEC program, it doesn't matter which job opening came open. You have to stay and ride it through. You'll have other opportunities down the road, but you can't leave your team high and dry the way Lane Kiffin did.
Jonah, your thoughts?
Well, notice how Saad works for The Athletic. If he was working for a community newspaper and The Athletic came calling saying, hey, Saad, we'll pay you a lot more money and give you a higher profile job, you're going to turn him down? I think just for the sake of devil's advocate, there is something to be said about going to a higher profile school or whatever it is in order to climb the career ladder. Everybody does it in every profession. I don't think college football coaching is any different.
So I'm going to jump in here and say I kind of agree on Saad. This is like 1A, 1C, not 1B, because there is a jump. But by all accounts, you're doing what LSU already wants to do. You're there. You've already established yourself. And more importantly, you have a chance to set your own legacy at this program as opposed to being the umpteenth offensive coordinator at LSU to get fired 3 years after getting hired. To me, like this is just a setup for another up the ladder, and it's another reminder that college head coaching is a scam at this point. Whoever buys into it, it's just ridiculous. And I'm sorry that every kid and everybody else in the organization has to deal with it. All right, moving on. Scenario number 2, and I imagine I'm giving this to you at the beginning of the college football year, guys. If I guaranteed you'd sweep your traditional rivals but miss the college football playoff, or I simply guarantee you a spot in the college football playoff, which would you take? Jonah, this or that?
Yeah, this one's easy. You take the guaranteed spot in the college football playoff because that's what you play the season for, to have a shot at the national championship. You can, the week-to-week overreactions, you love to, rub it in your rival's face, but at the end of the season, winning a championship is the ultimate rub it in the rival's face, and you don't get there unless you're in the playoff.
Saad. I went backwards.
Well, I think I could see either side here, just because if your rivals is situationally like the way that Texas was this year, both of your rivals you beat are very quality opponents. It's not like they're just bottom feeders. That's something to take pride in. But at the end of the day, you do play the entire season to make the playoff and have a shot at a national championship. You should, if you beat both of your rivals, you should have an opportunity to do that. You just can't lose to Florida along the way. So I think that's the problem that Texas ran into, because if you look at their game against Texas A&M, if you look at the way that they played against Oklahoma, those are 2 games against your rivals that you won and showed me that they're good enough to be in the playoff. But that's not the only 2 games on the season.
I will also say this. Everybody in Michigan has been rubbing in Ohio State's face for the last 4 years that they beat them on their national championship season. And Ohio State, at least half the fan base would rather trade for that end-of-season win. That's part of the reason why this is in there. Jonah, do you think Texas should make the playoff?
I do. But I also think that Texas shouldn't be scheduling Ohio State for non-conference. College football has become so watered down. I don't like it as a fan of college football, but if a program wants to make the playoff, sometimes you need that sparkly record. And this is a situation at the end of the regular season where you want that sparkly record to make the playoff.
Saad, would you cast your ballot for Texas?
I would not. And the main reason is not because of the Ohio State game. Actually, I hope that Texas keeps, having that game on the schedule. You have to beat Florida. That's the game you can't lose. You can lose to Georgia. You can lose to Ohio State. You can't slip up and lose to Florida the way they did. Otherwise, they'd be in the playoffs. So for me, that's the game.
Jonah, sorry, I keep getting you guys confused. That's my fault.
Saad and Javad, baby.
Saad and Javad. Saad, thank you so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. Jonah's final take coming up next. Welcome back to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. I also would not cast my vote for Texas, but I was really hoping for a lot of chaos yesterday. Didn't quite manifest that way. Unfortunately, SMU on the wrong end of it.
Yeah, that was heartbreak for the Ponies. And my final take has to do with that. Conference championships for college football are next weekend. UNT will face Tulane, and Texas Tech will face BYU in the Big 12 championship game. Unfortunately for the Mustangs of SMU, they come up short after losing to Cal in the most heartbreaking fashion that I can recall. They were 2 touchdown favorites in that game, and they lose in the final minute on a go-ahead score by the Bears. The Ponies will not be playing for an ACC title game or in the college football playoff, but that SMU program has come so far from where they were just 5-10 years ago. There's still better days ahead for the Hilltop. All right, that does it for me on my college football Hilltop. Andrew Cely, I'm Jonah Javad. Thanks for joining us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. We will see you next week when we wrap up Cowboys-Lions postgame.
Oh, boy.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.